for being here. Thank you all for showing up. I want to thank everybody for your presence despite the pandemic and for the beautiful work that you are all holding. I want to thank Mary Grove for being so accommodating. I want to thank the Forest Detroit team, Margaret, Carlton, Carisha, Skrill, Najanava, Isabel, back there holding it down. Thank you. We've reached a really, really important moment as a community. We've reached a moment where we are either gonna watch our communities be subject to constant protest, constant rivalry, or we're gonna listen to community. I wanna thank the funders that are here that will speak shortly, some of them, for listening to community. In this moment, our community is calling for alternatives to policing, community-generated alternatives, and they're calling for just policing, right? And all of you in this room represent the promise that we can patrol, we can keep safe, we can transform our own communities. And that is why we are here today. Thank you so much. I want to thank the Ford Foundation and Kevin Ryan, the McGregor Fund, Heidi and Kate, the Kellogg Fund, the Kellogg Foundation and Sarita, also the Skillman Foundation, the Hudson Weber Foundation, and many, many others who organized amongst themselves to make this happen. I want to thank Ray and his team for supporting me and supporting this work. I think it's just critically important in this moment that we listen to community, and community is calling for you and for your work to be acknowledged and uplifted. So we're here today to pay a long overdue tribute to Native Detroiters who don't get acknowledged for the often life-threatening, gritty service that they pay to citizens of Detroit to keep the city safe and to ensure that in keeping the city safe, citizens also have opportunities for transformation and redemption if that's what's necessary. In Detroit, there are several teams of African American, mostly male, often justice-impacted leaders who've been working to reduce violence and provide community-based leadership for years without meaningful support. This day is long, long overdue. You all attack issues of safety and injustice with the same aggression that violence attacks our community and with the same aggression that the system attacks our community. We are here because Detroiters need to know that community leaders are playing a huge role in keeping our community safe. They need to know that they can join these efforts, and we are also here because your work needs to be celebrated, acknowledged, and you need to be broke off some cash so that you're not choosing between doing the work that is in your heart, the work of keeping community safe, and your own household, your own families. So when I was, I'm gonna tell two stories, and then I'm gonna get off the podium, and we're gonna try to move this ceremony along as quickly as possible. We wanna get everybody out of here because of COVID, of course. When I was first hired as a safety organizer, I was asked to work with a group of clergy that were not as passionate as some of the friends and family members I had around me. So I had to make a choice. I was coming from a neighborhood in which there was a group of men that were targeting couples. They were raping the woman, they were robbing the couple, forcing the man to watch, and they were doing this over and over and over. As a pregnant woman with 2 toddlers, I left this neighborhood daily. So safety mattered greatly to me. And I was leaving to go to a neighborhood to drop my children off in which there was another serial rapist. And if you're from Detroit, you often ideate these scenarios of violence and how you might manage them. And for me, I could never figure out how I would protect both of my twins and get away as a pregnant woman if somebody tried to attack me. So it mattered to me that this work was successful. And at that time, there was a group of mostly men, right? Minister Malik Shabazz, my daddy, Baba Blair Anderson, Zeke of New Era Detroit, Negus Vu, and so many others that were canvassing those neighborhoods to make sure that the rapist didn't feel comfortable. They were canvassing with the same level of aggression that the violence was attacking our community. And they are often the reason, and the only reason, that I feel safe in this city. I want to give you another example, another story that was pivotal to me in this work. I used to teach poetry classes on the North End, and most of my kids were roughly, it's fair to say that they were good kids, right? They were coming to a teen center with a Muslim teacher to learn about metaphors and similes and dissect rap music on Friday evenings. And so I challenged the mostly young men that I had in my group to write about subjects other than violence or sex or money. And one day I challenged these young men to write about what they fear. And I led with, we know from our media depictions that the community fears us, but we also know we're human, right? What do we fear, right? And in that session, we went around, folks shared their rap, and they shared whatever poetic device they were using. One young man said, "I fear who I become when I have to rob people to help my mom pay the rent." And the session broke down. And we had built up enough relational equity to be emotional with each other and to be vulnerable with each other. So we cried. We talked about the concept of the trap in the hood and how they felt like they couldn't get out, right? And when I started digging, so the night ended, we all went home. That young man never came back to the center. When I started digging into his background, reaching out to his mom, following up on the threads of information that I had from him from his youth application, I found out that his mom worked at the McDonald's, the local McDonald's. That was actually the only number that he had on his application, and I at first thought he had given me the wrong information. I slowed down, I called back, only to find out that it wasn't her shift. And then when it was her shift, and I finally got the chance to talk to her, I learned that he was the elder brother, and he had 3 younger siblings. And he felt responsible for taking care of these children. And that moment changed the way I do community work. At that moment, I realized that just teaching poetry and just teaching art and just teaching entrepreneurship was not going to be enough for me to help build my community. I shared those 2 stories because, thank you. I shared those 2 stories because the people that we see standing around stand in the gap between those 2 places. We deserve safety in our community, and we deserve opportunities for transformation. And that is a hard, thin, rough line that these guys walk. So the young man that I referenced, he deserved an intervention and not an execution team, not a judge and jury. He needed opportunity for transformation. These teams create that regularly. They create opportunities for regular, everyday people, even those at the edge of criminality, to restore families, to transform, and to reimagine themselves as community leaders. And they do it in the simplest of ways through hosting regular events like food distribution, community cleanups, through negotiating with different systems to make sure that people are not criminalized and have an opportunity to transform. None of them want to be seen as working with the police. And yet, at the end of May and during the first week of June, they stood in the gap between protesters and the police to de-escalate violence. Many of them stopped the protesters from escalating. Many of them also stopped the police from escalating. There are many, many more people that I would love to honor. There are people who weren't present. Excuse me. People like Tamara Liberty Smith, the Nation of Islam, Minister Malik Shabazz, Brenda Hill, they all do good anti-violence work. The people in this room that are being awarded today are being awarded for disrupting the violence between the potential for violence and rioting and looting, and for keeping citizens safe during the last days of May and the first days of June. And I just really, really, really thank you all.
Hey, good day, everyone. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be there in person because we have a city council committee meeting that's happening at the same time, but I am so very thankful to still be able to participate in the honoring and celebrating these awesome group of leaders. Big shout out to Force Detroit and the Live Free Detroit Coalition for taking the time to honor these great, awesome soldiers who stand on the front lines every day. And what they did in those 10 straight days is the same thing they do every day. Protect, embrace, love, challenge, and represent the city of Detroit. Our city can be a real tough place to live at times. A lot of people are misguided, looking for direction. And if it were not for the leadership of each and every one of today's honorees, then not only would the story about Detroit's riots have been different, but also the countless Detroiters whose lives have been impacted by these folks on a daily basis. Today is our opportunity to not only show and tell you that you're needed, but also appreciate it. Congratulations on the work that you do, and may God continue to use you as powerful instruments that stand between fear and force to bring about peace, justice, and love. God bless you, and thank you for all that you do.
I'm gonna pass the mic to Malanka Clark. She is the president of the Hudson Weber Foundation. She is an absolute jewel in Detroit. She has a long time background in organizing, and her skill of organizing has escalated to the boardroom to such a great degree that she's able to pull together tables of funders to help us work through issues of criminal justice reform. But she started out, just like most of the people in this room, a safety organizer.
Thank you. Thanks, Saleha, for that too kind introduction. It's such an honor for me to be here to celebrate the heroes in our community. And to say just a couple of words of context, I guess, that I would offer just from where I'm standing. But before saying too much, I actually want to say a special thank you to Alea and Force Detroit for organizing this, but frankly, Alea, for your leadership. There is not a, as I've come to know Alea, every room that she walks into as she accesses room with funders like us that have dollars to give out, she is always lifting up the vital and important work of community leaders. She's never in that room by herself. She sort of brings the leaders into the room and demands our attention and support. And I am truly inspired by that type of leadership. So I just want to call it out. So I'm going to start with that. Thank you. So as we know, of course, we're here to honor the contributions of the awardees who, as Alea just described, stood between police and protesters and diffused what was a potential tinderbox created by what is the national reckoning with police brutality and racial inequity. So I know we have a diverse group of leaders from organizations and DPD that have diverse missions, but from all accounts, this shared commitment to our community and the shared bravery, frankly, about stepping into spaces, risking personal safety to de-escalate these situations are worthy of our respect, of our acknowledgement and recognition. But I also want to say something about what these actions demonstrate about the most effective way to bring about public safety. And that really is to bring the public into the creation of safety. And by the public, I mean the people, right? The people are the key to the creation of safe communities. So before coming to Detroit, I wore a lot of hats before coming here, but one of the hats I had was serving as the Chief of Staff for President Obama's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. That task force issued a series of recommendations around community policing, and a central premise of the recommendations in that report is that in a constitutional democracy, officers need to enforce the law with the people, not on the people. The pragmatic reality is that law enforcement cannot ensure the safety of communities alone. That's just what's true. But more importantly, the truth is that community members and leaders can have the greatest and most enduring impact on keeping our communities safe. That's certainly true in moments like that being acknowledged here, where credible and trusted local leaders were able to engage with protesters, which did more to keep the peace than threats of tear gas and rubber bullets. But truly, our investments in safety can't simply address the behaviors and tactics of police. They have to also encompass the civic engagement and capacity of communities to improve their own neighborhoods, their quality of life, their sense of safety and well-being. And beyond that, the work of community and local law enforcement leaders and efforts like violence prevention need to inform and be supported by systems change work that is necessary to address the root causes that lead to trauma and the harms that inspire violence, which Alea set the table with, and that our over-reliance on incarceration has done so little to address. So I'll note that we are helping to lead a statewide funders collaborative called the Michigan Justice Fund, which is focused on providing support and capacity to organizations most proximate to communities experiencing the fallout of justice system involvement, even on a block-by-block level. But we want to help to support the connection between these local efforts to statewide reform that is about the business of systems change, and that will result in reducing our justice system footprint and bringing additional investment in communities that enable us to thrive. I'd say this moment, as much as any in my lifetime, has underscored the need for collaborative approaches for seeking truly transformational social justice outcomes that are driven and led by the community for the community. And I am so proud. This is just such a wonderful example of local and collaborative leadership, community-driven, and by and for and on behalf of the community. And I am proud to be a part of it, proud to support it, and congratulate all the awardees. Thank you.
Thank you, Malanka. Next, I would love to invite up Victoria. Victoria, she blazed a trail recently with her vision for just prosecution. And what her vision necessitates is that groups like these be robustly supported in order for us not to over-criminalize people. So.
Good afternoon. I'm going to gather myself. I'm an emotional person, and this event has just come right on the heels of me having a very strong moment of gratitude for the men that we are here to honor. Just last week, I attempted to reach out to them through social media to give them the praise that I think they are due every single day, but very rarely are given, and they never seek it. These are men in our community that don't just seek to respond to violence. They are actively working to interrupt it. And they're doing that by pouring resources into our community day in and day out. And not just resources that they're given, but they find resources. They give of their own time. They give of their own money that they take out of their family's budget, because our community is their family. And they see that, they feel it, and I feel it from them. So forgive me if I drop a tear. The men that we are here to honor, I'm looking at all of you all, and I have, every single time I've been in your presence, shared with you how much I love you. They say that Black women, that we are the most unprotected. And I'm here to tell you that while I strongly believe that to be true, I'm grateful for moments as a Black woman that we don't feel unprotected because of the Black men that we are here to honor today. I'm not going to call all of you out, but I'm looking at you, Buckingham. I'm looking at you, Minister Fukwabe. I'm looking at you, Skrill. I'm looking at you. Where did you go? There you are. Tafari. And you know I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you all and all of the men that we are here to honor, because as a defense attorney who ran on a very progressive, bold platform, and I was not shy about speaking out for Black lives and for Black liberation. I'm excited that I get to honor you all because you played a big part in what we did as a community this summer, but you play a big part in this journey toward Black liberation for all of us. I understand that we can't simply vote our way out of our conditions. We can't simply use policy to change our conditions. I understand that at the root of it, the community not just has to have a seat at the table, but we have to be at the head of the table. We have to lead those discussions. We have to inform the policy that we are asking our policymakers to put into place. Otherwise, decisions are being made for us and not with us, not led by us. And until we lead those discussions, people who are closest to the pain, the people who live with the pain day in and day out, the people who are living, having their doors kicked in, shots ringing day in and day out around their children, where they play, where they live, where they go to school, until that happens, we will continue to fight in circles. And that's what I mean by these men are interrupting and disrupting that cycle. They understand that we can vote and have policies, but until they sit down, like Brother Winans, and discuss with these young men what brought them to this place. How did you get shot? What type of conflict are you involved in? What are you afraid of? But more importantly, what can I give to you to make sure that you don't continue to return to this situation of violence, of brutal violence? What can I pour into you to get you to see the value of your life and the lives of those around you? That's the work. That work doesn't happen in Lansing. That work does not happen in the courtroom. That work happens in the community, on the ground, and these men in this room standing around us are the angels that are doing it. They are going into gas stations and saying, hey, gas station owner and clerk, you have a business in our community, and our community has demands. But we're not going to just share those demands with you. We're going to work with you. We're going to bring in people to help bridge this gap so that we have less cultural insensitivity and more cultural appreciation and more collaboration between your culture and the Black culture and the community that your business sits in. We have men who have gone out and gathered young men who are just filled with rage from unaddressed, unresolved trauma, and getting them together to ask, what do you need? And creating a space where they can be vulnerable, where they feel safe to express what it is that they're going through, and they start to break down all of that unaddressed trauma. And that's hard, you guys. That's very hard. There are people who pay professional therapists for that for years to overcome it. And these men are doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, out of the love for their community, for free. We should be having these events every month, not just to celebrate them, but to help restore them because they give so much. There's one brother in here that I didn't realize he even had a full-time job because I see him on the streets all the time. And I asked him a couple of months ago if he could do something with me and for me, and he said, well, baby sis, I got a job. I said, oh, I didn't know. Because you are constantly in the community giving day in and day out. I salute all of you. I love all of you. I uplift all of you and the work that you do. And I'm here to tell you that in the courtroom, when I have clients who have issues that I can pinpoint, are really rooted in trauma, community trauma, family trauma. I've said your names to judges. I've said your organizations to judges and said, Judge, if you just trust me as an officer of the court, I can put this young man in the hands of brothers who will care for him and help make sure he doesn't come before you. And I offer that as an alternative to incarceration because we all know that jails are not the answer. Thank you so much, and I'm so honored to stand here and honor you.
Every time Victoria speaks, I am moved almost to tears, right? Her voice is so powerful and so nurturing at the same time. So I want to introduce Kate, and I want to thank Kate Levin Markle. Did I say her name? Kate, did I say your name right? So she is the president of the McGregor Fund, and the McGregor Fund has been host to some of the most provocative conversations in this sector, right? Right? And the beautiful thing is, when we get in this room with Heidi and Kate, they don't back down from these conversations. And our voices, I'm often the person saying, hey, you funder, you know me? You know my voice is a little bit gritty. Look, you sure you want me in this room? Because I'm going to say the thing I need to say for my people, right? And they never back down from the conversation. And if we're going to move beyond this moment of protesting to a moment where community change is actualized, it'll be because we lean into those conversations. So I want to honor Heidi and Kate, and I'm happy to welcome you up here to speak with us.
I just want everyone to know that Kevin was supposed to come next, and I just can't believe I have to follow you, Victoria. That was so beautiful. And Alea, thank you so much for this invitation. And I was asked to actually give a little reflection, so I hope you will all indulge me in that. And I apologize in advance for being a little self-centered. But I just wanted to share that 52 years ago, in September 1968, I walked into the door of Pasteur Elementary School. Some of you may know it's about 1.5 miles up Stouffville, and I was a kindergartner. And I was really blessed to receive my education there. And if I may say so, it was a wonderful time to be a white kid in a black majority school and city, and to learn from black educators, and to feel the energy of black culture and the Black Power movement of that time. And my young friends brought me into the spirit of that time, and I stand here today as a Detroiter born and raised and carrying a debt of gratitude to my hometown. So most of us kids then, we didn't really understand the bigger political picture and the wake-up call that had come a year earlier when, following decades of police brutality and discriminatory government policies and hiring practices and restrictions on where you could live and who would do business with you, and uncertainty about whether you would get the health care you needed or were treated fairly under the law or could even exercise your basic rights, that some folks in this city had had enough, and you couldn't blame them. So here we are in 2020, and some of us have heard and heeded and needed, apparently, another wake-up call, a wake-up call to the persistent inequities, the violent injustices, and the anti-blackness that is experienced by so many people still in our country, in our region, our city, and our institutions to this day. And this was not the future that was supposed to lie ahead for us kids in 1968 in Detroit. So clearly, our civic institutions have not done their full part. We have not done right to realize the vision of that community that is just and equitable and broadly prosperous and interdependent. And I put philanthropy at the top of that list. So here I find myself in 2020 more clear on the life of privilege that I've always enjoyed and the privileged seat that I hold working for a foundation. And I want to tell you all that I am really trying to honestly confront what I need to be and do differently, and that my colleagues, including, of course, our wonderful Heidi, are asking the same questions of themselves, and we're asking these questions together. Back in June, our organization and each of us personally, we publicly committed to bringing our work closer to the perspectives and the racialized reality and the wisdom of the people who we serve. And we committed to deepening our efforts to listen and learn. We know that this means receiving and sitting with painful truths and being fully present in hard conversations, and from a more humble place, putting in the time to build relationships across perceived differences, and doing so eagerly and with open hearts. I want to quote you, Alea, when you said, as a society, we're not to the point where we can clearly hear each other, and we will never be if we don't speak our truth, listen with empathy, and build relationships even when common ground isn't apparent. And I couldn't agree more. From this steady practice of listening and being in truth and being together, it is my hope that our work deploying resources can evolve and we find our way to making different and better decisions that are more informed by community and by all of you. And over time, I hope that the lines that may separate us and community can begin to fade, and the us can become community. So in that spirit, I want all of you to know how honored we are to be here today, to honor you, to learn about your work, to celebrate your work, to continue in the days ahead, in the years ahead, to celebrate and support your leadership. Alea, I want you to know how invaluable you've been to bring us to this work and to this moment, and look forward to getting to know you all truly in the days to come. Thanks so much.
Thank you, thank you. I look forward to our continued conversations, and thank you for your bravery and openness. I thought it appropriate that Kevin end us out, because Kevin is, he's been doing some really, really visionary grant making. He's been crossing borders and speaking bravely about this work to his colleagues, about how it needs to be supported. He's been making untraditional investments. And so I thought it appropriate that he end our comments.
So I'm gonna be brief because we need to get to the awards, because that's what we're here for. But I did first want to say we're here to honor you, but I'm here as a Detroiter, not as a Ford Foundation person. I'm here as a Detroiter to honor the work you do. That's first. Second, I know we're here to honor the work you did this summer, but I'm also here to honor all the work you do. Because I know some of you have been out here doing census outreach, some of you have been rehabbing houses, some of you have been out here building community houses for people to feel safe. I'm honoring all the stuff you do. It's not just about what you did this summer, because that's important to acknowledge. And then third and finally, this is for my foundation colleagues, we're building trust and we're trying to work together to do this in a much different way. But the reality of it is, if we are not supporting Black-led, community-led organizations in this city that's 80% Black, we're not doing our job. So I'm asking you, as we try to move forward, our colleagues to do this work, I'm asking you to hold us accountable. If we're not doing the work, if we're not supporting the groups, you gotta tell us, call us out, let us know we're not doing that. We will continue to push our colleagues from the inside, but we need your help to push from the outside to really move to make this city a better place. That's all I have to say.
So yeah, I am not gonna say everybody's individual name for fear that I will get everybody's name wrong, and because there are so many people and we wanted to honor individual leadership. So the philosophy of this award is that we're awarding organizational teams money that they can do with what they want, hopefully divide. We wanted to give you cash, right? We wanted to honor you financially. We also want to give all of the leaders awards, because when you do volunteer work, it comes at a personal cost, right? It is your family's budget that is being potentially jeopardized, right? It's your time away from your kids, and it comes over and above whatever hustle you have, whatever business you're running, whatever career you have. So I thought it important that people's individual names be on the list. So I am, give me a minute to pull up the list of awardees. So I want to honor the leadership of Ceasefire Detroit, Cheryl Jones, Quincy. We love you all. We love you all. So look, wait, we've got awards for each individual. So don't come up here. We're gonna let you all sift through these awards later. But I want to say the names of the organizations because look, they've got like 24 plaques over here. They have a team of 24, right? And their sacrifice is great, right? So, this young man, he just got married. And the ceasefire team, when all of us went indoors, the ceasefire team never stopped working. So he started isolating in his basement so that his new wife and so that his daughter didn't get compromised from his potential exposure to COVID. That is the type of sacrifice that the people in this room make. And I want to honor that. So Ceasefire Detroit, the Live in Peace movement, Pastor Mo. Pastor Mo grinds so hard. He goes so hard. He works with our children. He does narrative building work. He's on the front line when there's an incident. I want to thank you for leading, Pastor Mo. Dignity for Detroit. I'm sorry. He also helped found the Live Free Detroit Coalition, right? So he was one of when we first got started and we were in the room planning, Pastor Mo was in that room sorting things out with me. Thank you. Dignity for Detroit, Tafari Brent, thank you, thank you, thank you. Listen. This brother has so many jobs, and he's always in the community. He is always doing stuff. He's on the front lines of incidents. He's moving policy work. He's creating structural change work. He's making sure that that our police, our local, especially the suburban police around us, are integrating a series of 8 Can't Wait, a series of use of force policies that make it less likely for people to die from police interaction. He's doing just such important work. So grateful, glad to be able to honor you. D-Live, Ray. We are so grateful, so great. First of all, look, I can't believe I'm up on the mic and not Ray. That's first of all, right? Second of all, I just am truly honored to be able to honor you, right? Your years of work, your years of compassionate, redemptive, transformative work is just brilliant. And the way you've pulled your team together is stellar, right? When I think about how we are reimagining the leadership of community people, I think of your work, and I thank you for it. Detroit 300. You all are a constant and perpetual presence, right? For years and years and years, without funding. I can't imagine the sacrifices that you all are personally making. Thank you. Where is Brother Keith Bennett? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. The founder of Flip the Script. He is a sage and an elder. He has paved the way for this work. He was doing this work while we were kids, while some of us, right, were kids. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to age me or you. My bad. But thank you for your work. And then this wouldn't be an honest and truthful ceremony if I didn't also acknowledge the contribution of brothers like Chief Todd Bettison, right? So now look, Now look, nobody in this room wants to openly say we work with the police. But the brother Ty Bettison, he de-escalates, right? He makes a way for our transformative work. He makes sure that in the process, we don't get criminalized. And most of us, look, my father was in prison for 27 years, and I grew up going to see him, right? So it's hard for you to build a relationship with someone like me. When I was first introduced to Ty Bettison, the folks at the table were like, trust me, Alea, just don't wig out on, just let the brother talk. These two brothers back here, right? Just let the brother talk. And he had a hard way to go with me. But you know, so like I said, I can't let this day go by without, you know, being truthful and honest. Also, the leadership of Stephen Grady, right? Most politicians are not on the ground. When we go disrupt gas stations, most politicians aren't on the ground. When we host candlelight vigils, most politicians aren't on the ground. Stephen Grady is always there, and I've got to acknowledge that. The Moorish Science Temple and the leadership of Brother Fuquabe. Listen, thank you. We are honored to be able to support. This is one of my father's good friends and one of my estranged uncles. Every time I'm around him, I feel like he is family. And if you've been waiting a long time on Wyoming to get by at about Puritan Finkel area, it's because he's giving away food like a machine. Okay? Grateful for your leadership, brother. The work of My Liberation, the organizing work as led by Nick Buckingham. Listen, we had a long way to come for this moment, right, Nick? But I'm grateful for your leadership. I'm grateful to see your journey and your transformation and the depth of your work in the community. When Force was first founded, he was a part of the leadership team, a part of the thought tank. And we argued with everybody else as much as we argued with each other. So I am glad to be in this room with you and to be celebrating your work as allies. I love you, brother. The Church of the Messiah and the Black Panther History Project, as led by the efforts of my daddy, Baba Blair, in the back. Yeah. So my dad is the reason, you know, humbly, my arguments with my father are the reason I come to this work, right? So I used to tell him, hey, don't you go out and volunteer for nothing else. These organizations have budgets. Let's get you into one of them. And this is the long way around setting out to create that opportunity broadly for everybody. I'm grateful for those conversations and for the lessons, for the things that I didn't know. I've got almost 20 years experience in the nonprofit realm, and he is still teaching me stuff that I don't know, and he will still organize me under a damn table, okay? The People's Action. Yeah, I want to honor the People's Action. Vu was a part of the leadership team along with Pastor Mo, who originally helped me found the Live Free Detroit Coalition. I am grateful to be able to support the work of that team of community leaders. Your work is beautiful. Your work is absolutely beautiful, gritty, and super Black. Yeah, thank you. And then also, there are two people I don't think they're here, Reverend Rideout and Yusuf Shakur, who played clear monumental roles during the 10 or so days where Detroit could have burned or rioted. I want to honor all of your leadership. I also want to get you out of here. There were more people than anticipated in this room, so hopefully there was food enough for everybody. If not, hopefully there's also water for everybody. Plaques are up here. I'll help everybody sift through them. Just tell me your names. Like I said, they have your individual names on them. And again, I'm so grateful to be able to honor you. After today, just as a technical note, tomorrow we will be processing the deposits for the awards, and we're going to try to get them out like a train. So you should give us, for people who are not already in our system, you should give us 30 days. I'm here. I love y'all. Thank you. I'm grateful for this moment.